So we were saying the source to affirm that Peter and Paul were both in the jail down there, that we call St. Peter and Paul jail, or Mamertine jail, that's the ancient Roman name, but also Tullianum, by the name of the Roman consul who restored the jail. The source comes from Roman chronicles. Roman chronicles are all the documents that we have written by the old Roman chronicle writers. I don't say journalists, because of course they didn't write on newspapers, in which they tell us about the stories of the early Christian times, together with many other stories. Down there at the bottom of this road on the right side there is a big palace with a bell tower, today house of the city, but in the old Roman times the Capitolium, this is the name of that place, was the place where the old Romans worshipped Jupiter, at the same time preserving the important documents in the so-called tabulae capitoline, that means documents written and preserved in the Capitolium. Tabulae Capitoline that were preserved in the so-called Tabularium, that was the central archive of Rome in the Republic and Imperial times, still visible when you are at the bottom of the road. Okay. And you can see on top of the name, there is a very, I like it very much, a very nice representation of Peter and Paul in the jail. And now we have to get used to these symbols. You know, I love the word symbol, that's a Greek word, ballo, linking together. Because thanks to symbols we could link together our identity. So this is the meaning of symbols, something that everybody could understand all over the Christian world, interpreting the meaning. And we will see many of them later on. So you can see that the symbol of St. Paul is the sword, while the symbol of St. Peter are the keys. Why? Peter, the keys of heaven, because actually when Jesus named Peter first pope, he formally gave him the keys of heaven, with the famous words, whatever you will link on this planet will be chained in heaven, whatever you will solve will be solved in heaven. St. Paul as the sword is another meaning. It's not because he was killed, cut in the head. This would be not nice. The reason is that Paul was considered the soldier of Christ, because Paul, in his letters, you read for sure, and in his words, in his speech, was particularly strong, particularly sometimes aggressive, but aggressive in a good meaning, to move people, and that's why considered the soldier of Christ is represented with the sword. And you will see in any representation we'll see today, Paul holding the sword on the shoulder in front of him. You can see, in the same time, just a few steps closer, that the real entrance is lower level. So we are going downstairs in order to enter the old jail, and this is the ground floor. While the real jail, the real place where they were in chain, is lower, is under the level of the ground of today. So you can see very well, Ruth, that the Arch of Septimius Severus give us the measure of the level of the ground 2000 years ago, 30 feet lower than the level of the road where today we are walking around. On top of the facade of the jail of Rome, of the Mamertinum Tullianum, there is an inscription that shows when and who was the last restoration. There is written Cocceius Nerva Cos XSC. What does it mean? It means that was restored for the last time, at least for the visible one, by the Emperor Cocceio Nerva, who was the successor of Domitian, and we talk about the beginning of the 2nd century after Jesus, the year 100 more or less, ex senatus consultus, that means after then listening to the opinion of the Senate, because also in the imperial period the Senate had a role that was more than all suggesting, confirming, informing the emperor about what he had or had not to do.